Good afternoon on what is a bright, sunny, if slightly breezy day. It is Saturday, October the 30th. I'm in the reading nook with a nice cup of tea and a very appropriate board game to unbox, which is Horrified. The stakes have been raised in this board game for 1 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. This is published by Ravensburger, okay, and it basically says on the back, a city screams in terror, a cooperative game against the world's most famous monsters. The village is under attack. Dracula, the mummy, Frankenstein's monster, his bride, and more on the rampage, and your team of heroes must defeat them. Each monster offers a entirely unique challenge, and players can adjust the difficulty by playing against a new group of adversaries every game. Overcome them before the horror overwhelms you. So, if you look at the back, we've got, here's the board, okay, and you've got 7 miniatures for all of the monsters. Now the monsters in here are the classic monsters from the Universal Monsters films of the 30s and 40s. So you've got Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Invisible Man, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Obviously the Black Lagoon, but he's from the 50s, that's from the 50s, but essentially it's that set of monsters. And this is a game in which they stalk a village, not a city, as it says on the back cover, on the back of the box, and stalking villagers whom you have to save, and whilst you find a solution to basically to defeating them. So I'd say, first off, it's a really great cover. You know, that captures them in all their glory. It's lovely artwork, and you open it up, and okay, what's really amazing is this. This is a warning about the horrifying experience you are about to have, but it's actually on the back of the board, okay? It's printed, so I'll just show you this. So the board isn't actually that big. So here we go. See that? That's the board, the back of the board. On the front, what you've got is a village with various locations and a terror track at the top. Various locations where the creatures and the heroes will wander. So, like the camp, where are we? The camp is somewhere where you will deal with the creatures of the Black Lagoon, and then you've got a laboratory where essentially you'll be dealing with the Invisible Man, and so on. So let's just fold that down. Okay. Then we've got the rulebook. So, and it's also got, so to learn how to play, watch the video. I mean, it's got a nice starter video you can go and watch on the Ravensburger site. And then we've got a breakdown of what all the components are. So each monster has its own mat, which details what its actions are. You've got 7 heroes to choose from, each for different abilities. And then you've got different aspects of the monster which come into play when they're selected, because what you do is 1 to 5 players, you choose the number of players you have, and then you choose the number of monsters you want to face, and 2 is easy, 3 is standard, 4 is challenging. So for example, if you're facing the mummy, there's an overlay which goes on the board over on the museum, and you've got little tokens you need to use to solve a puzzle, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, and then we've got a guide to the player setup, monster setup, objectives, difficulty, and so on. And it's a really easy to read rulebook. And the actions are nice explained. And the thing is, what's great about this, at the same time, you have explanations. You have examples, really quite lengthy explanations. You know, how does this play? Or read through this, and you'll have an idea of how a typical turn goes. Then we go on to the monster phase, because essentially you have, it's a bit like Pandemic, where you have a player action hero phase where they go around and collect items and move villagers and swap items and so on, and potentially go to the locations where they can deal with the monsters. or at least basically advance essentially whatever is affecting them, and then defeat them. And then you have the monster phase, where a random monster moves and attacks you and attacks the villagers. And essentially, if it attacks the villagers, the terror level goes up. And if the terror level goes up too high, you lose. And then we have a full explanation of each of the monsters and how they work. And again, what's great about that is if you open the rulebook and you read that far, and it's got advice in here, essentially difficulty. Your first game, choose these two. Okay, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula. Then the novice game, you go on to any two monsters. Standard game, any three. Challenging game, any four. And you get to this stage in the game, a rulebook, and you go, okay, I need to find out more about the Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula. They're the first monsters mentioned. All right, they're in alphabetical order, but they're the first mentioned, which is really good, a really nice touch. And it does this for each of all of the different monsters, explaining what they do. There's a bit of clarification at the end, and that's it. And it's all really easy to read. We've got tokens, so these are the tokens you use to defeat the monsters. You collect enough of them and you can go and defeat the monster. You expend them and you can go and do various things to influence them. Okay, I'll show you that in a minute. And then we've got, basically little standees for your characters, your heroes. Dice for when you get into combat with monsters, which you really want to avoid. And then you've got little miniatures for each of the monsters. So, there we go. There's Dracula, very Bela Lugosi, as you would expect. Boris Karloff in all his glory as Frankenstein's monster. Again, let's just have a look. The Mummy. Now the detail on these isn't very good. Basically, so it does feel a bit. These feel a little cheap, as if you want to replace them with something a bit more attractive. I know you can obviously do that if you want to. And then you've got the cards, and the cards basically you've got like monster cards, and essentially you see that will tell you how many items you draw from this bag. And then it will tell you there's a special thing that will happen, like for example on the move the frenzy marker to the next monster, move each villager one space towards their safe location. So essentially that's it's all thematic. I mean, if you have a look on the side of the box, here's an explanation of who the monsters are. There's no space wasted on here, and that's a really lovely touch. So you've got, so for example, the frenzy marker is essentially, you've got every monster has an icon in this box, has an icon which may appear in this box, and if the icon appears, that monster acts on that monster face. So in this turn, that's for a frenzied monster, the frenzied monster moves. So when it says here, move the frenzy marker to the next monster, because the frenzy marker can change throughout the game, and the monster moves. And then it says move the villagers one space towards their safe location. Get the villagers to a safe location, and you have you basically get a perk card which gives you a benefit. But you think the monster's frenzy attacking, and the villagers flee, and so they're fleeing to their safe location. Really thematic. That's really thematic. So, and then we come on to the monster cards. Magpies are having a chatter off, I suppose. So, just for example, we've got one of each. There's the Invisible Man. Where are we? The Wolfman. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Frankenstein and the Bride. I'll come back to this one because this is quite interesting. The Mummy and Dracula. So let's see what you're doing on here. So essentially, what you've got here is Dracula is seeking blood. Destroy his four coffins so you can subdue him. And his attack is Dark Charm. Place the current player's hero in Dracula's space. So thematic, i.e., basically, yes, that's what you're doing to destroy him. Basically break his coffins, just as in the classic story, and he's got to he's got a dark charisma which will draw the heroes to him, and he will attack them and take away their items and potentially send them to hospital if they have no items. So what do? You go to each location where there is a coffin, and it's listed. And for example, it's listed on here, and you have enough red tokens. Smash the coffin. Do it 4 times. You've got to the point where you can weaken him, and then you can go to basically wherever his space is and use more tokens to defeat him. So really simple. Okay, but that's Dracula. On the Mummy, okay, what you do is, yes, ultimately you go to his space and defeat him using more tokens, but you go to the museum, spend tokens yellow colour, and there's little tokens on here which you move around to get in the right order, and you'll weaken him enough. You'll weaken his curse. And the other one I'm going to show you is Frankenstein and the Bride, and there are 2 figures in there, and there's a dial for each. Okay. And they hate the sight of each other. Basically, they can't stand each other. They think each other is monsters and they run away. But if you teach them how to coexist peacefully and teach them humanity, they can be overcome. And essentially, you've got to basically expend tokens to turn these up. Turn these dials up all the way up to get them to enough to basically have enough humanity to withstand each other. That's fantastically thematic and in keeping with the setting of the game. Now, okay, so this basically plays in an hour. It basically says on the box, bags of theme. It's ages 10 and up, and so it's a horror game, but it's not really scary. You know that you get that visceral thrill of basically of having a monster chase you and perhaps chase you into a particular location, or you've gone down to a particular location and you can't get out because there's a monster in the way. That's thematically scary, but it's not horrifying. It's not going to give anyone nightmares, and that's great. And of course, there's a huge sense of nostalgia, which this game is really tapping into with the monsters, which are all really well done. And this is going to be such fun to play, and it's a great alternative to horror games which deal with essentially zombies or Cthulhu. Now, I'm not denigrating either games which deal with zombies or Cthulhu. I like both, but this makes a great change, and it returns to the classic monsters of yore, and really brings it to life. And the other great thing about this is that you can go and buy this on the high street. You buy this on the high street, and thematically it's been really well designed, and you think it's not basically just a movie tie-in or anything. It's a tie-in to an intellectual property, and it's not a roll and move kind of boring dice game, a race game or something like that. It's actually doing what you would do in the movies, and it's dealing with all of the monsters in the movies, potentially 4 of them at the same time. So yeah, I think that's great. I think there's a sequel board game come out as well. I would love to see more monsters for this game, because there are some classic monsters out there that would fit this game perfectly. For example, the Blob. I mean, that would be great. You're facing the Blob in a setting like that. It'd be really good. And the Blob is a fun movie, and whether you're talking about the original version with a young Steve McQueen, or the 80s remake, which is all right. But anyway, this is Horrified from Ravensburger. Let's just put this away. I think this looks great. I think this is thematically fantastically well done. There's another board game that the same design team did for Ravensburg, and that's Jaws, and that's really great. It's essentially you play the characters in there in the movie, hunting Jaws round Amity Island, and then going on the boat, the Orca, and facing off against the shark as it comes in and attacks the boat, chomping away again and again. And it's fun. It's tense. It's fantastic. And if you're a fan of sharks and of Jaws, you'll love it. But if you're a fan of the classic monsters from the Universal movies, you'll love this. So that's Horrified. Okay. Well, thank you once again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please do hit the like button. And if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you posting those. I do get time to read them. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me with a book or a game which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, please do hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, thank you once again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.